She works at a grocery store. Imagine the shame, my brother whispered. My father chuckled, she's not even wife material. Then the groom, a decorated military major in full dress blues, stood tall, looked them dead in the eye, and said, "She's the reason I survived war, and the only woman I'd trust with my life." The entire room fell silent. My name is Elena Carter. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. What happens when the people who raised you become the very ones who try to erase you? They always treated me like the dented can in the pantry. There, but not good enough for the front row. I used to think if I worked hard, if I smiled small and stayed quiet, maybe they'd make room for me at the table. Instead, I was handed a paper badge at my brother's wedding that said overflow. No plate, no chair, no voice. But let's rewind. I wasn't some mess up they were trying to hide. I was the kid who took double shifts to keep the lights on after mom died. The one who patched dad's roof while my brothers partied in college. And when I couldn't afford tuition anymore, I got a job at Morgan's Grocery. Stocking shelves. Cleaning spills. Saving every dollar like it was a lifeline. That's where I met him. Nathaniel Brooks. He came in just after midnight. Limping. Drenched in rain. Barely standing. Didn't say much. Just collapsed near aisle 7. Turns out, he'd just returned from overseas. No one to meet him. No home to go to. I gave him tea, a blanket, a quiet place to breathe. He came back the next night. Then the next. And slowly, he started to live again. Now fast forward to today. My brother's wedding. I wasn't a bridesmaid. I wasn't even listed in the program. But I walked in with Nathaniel, in uniform, his medals glinting under the chandeliers, and every head turned. They didn't see me. They saw him. And when my father and brother made their little jokes, Nathaniel didn't flinch. He looked right at them and gave them a truth they couldn't swallow. She's the reason I survived war. But the real battle? That hadn't even begun yet. I thought they'd be humbled. I thought, maybe for once, they'd see me. But my father just smirked, eyes locked on Nathaniel, and muttered. She must have sunk her claws into him somehow. No real man would pick her. Nathaniel heard every word. And I watched his jaw tighten, not out of rage, but resolve. They didn't know who he was. Not really. To them, he was just a man in a fancy uniform, swept up in a moment. They didn't know that behind his calm stare was a war hero with a multi-million-dollar legacy and a memory sharp enough to recall every slight ever thrown my way. Still, I didn't walk out. Not yet. Because some people only understand loss when it's served cold, and in public. During the reception, I sat alone. They placed me near the kitchen doors, table 26, right next to the stack of dirty plates. They gave me no name card, no menu, no champagne. I guess daughters who stock shelves don't deserve filet mignon. But Nathaniel? He dragged a chair across the marble floor, loud and deliberate, and placed it right beside mine. Every camera turned. He didn't say a word. He just opened his phone, scrolled to a photo, and held it out to me. It was a screenshot of a wire transfer. $685,000. To my name. What's this? I whispered. My gift to you, he said, voice low. To buy back everything they took from you. I stared at the screen. My heart skipped. Then he leaned in and added, that includes the house. I blinked. My childhood house? He nodded. Your father missed 3 payments. It went up for silent auction last week. I bought it. Cash. In your name. The same man who called me worthless. Now technically lived under my roof. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But I knew this. Tonight wasn't about revenge. Not yet. Tonight was about letting them bury themselves, while I quietly dug the hole. And, trust me, they were already halfway in. It got worse before it got better. They thought their humiliation had peaked, that Nathaniel's defense was just a passionate outburst. They had no idea he was only warming up. After dinner, they opened the floor for toasts. My brother's best friend talked about loyalty. The bride's sister cried about childhood dreams. Then Nathaniel stood up. Uninvited. The microphone squealed as he took it, unbothered. My name is Major Nathaniel Brooks, he began, his voice calm but cutting. I've seen combat zones quieter than this room. Laughter bubbled, nervous, scattered. He didn't smile. I was shot twice. Held in captivity for 6 weeks. Lost men I called brothers. And when I came home, no one greeted me. No parade. No family. He paused. Except her. His eyes met mine across the room. Elena Carter is not just the woman I love. She's the reason I didn't end it all. Gasps. A dropped fork. My aunt whispering something into her husband's ear. He went on. When my PTSD kept me up at night, she stayed awake too. When I had nothing, she shared everything. And when I proposed, it wasn't because I needed a wife. He looked directly at my father now. It was because I'd be a fool to walk through this life without her. Silence. Then applause. Reluctant at first. But it spread. Even the band clapped. My father didn't. He got up and walked out. My brother followed. I stayed seated. That applause wasn't for me. It was for the version of me they never bothered to meet, until a man they respected forced them to. After the speech, the bride cornered me in the hallway. You just had to make today about you, huh? She hissed, eyes glossy with fake tears. I blinked. Your husband humiliated me and my fiancé defended me. That's not stealing attention. That's surviving. She scoffed. God, you're so used to being pitted. I smiled. Actually, I'm about to own the house you'll be honeymooning out of. Her face dropped. Oh, didn't they tell you? I added sweetly. That house on Willow Street? It's mine now. That was the moment she realized the door she'd just slammed behind me was no longer hers to open. By the next morning, the news had spread like wildfire. My father's phone was blowing up. His buddies from the lodge. The cousins who only show up for funerals and free food. Even my mother's old church friend texted him. Why is your house listed under Elena Carter now? He stormed into the kitchen, still half drunk from the wedding after party, and demanded answers from my brother. I thought you said it was handled, he barked. My brother, face pale, stuttered. It wasn't even on the public auction list. How the hell did she find out? She didn't, a voice said from the doorway. It was me. I walked in calmly, holding a folded piece of paper, the updated deed. I bought it. And it was surprisingly cheap, considering all the memories. My father lunged toward me. You think this makes you powerful? You think money makes you one of us? I didn't flinch. No, I said softly. I think money makes you finally look me in the eye. He opened his mouth, but Nathaniel stepped between us. Touch her, he said coldly, and I'll file charges so fast your dentures will crack. My father froze. Nathaniel was calm, but I saw the tension in his knuckles. Later that day, movers showed up. I didn't say a word as they carried out the leather armchairs, the antique lamp my mom loved, the ugly chandelier that never worked. My brother screamed, "This is still our home." I smiled. You mean the one in my name? I gave them 48 hours to vacate. Nathaniel offered to be generous. He suggested we donate the furniture to a shelter. I agreed. But my father? He tore up the eviction notice in front of my face and spit on the floor. Go ahead, he growled. Call the police. No one would side with you. He was wrong. Because what he didn't know was that our local police chief, Nathaniel, trained his son in tactical defense and saved his life in Afghanistan. That officer owed him everything. So when the squad car pulled up the next morning and handed them the final notice, it wasn't my name they flinched at. It was Nathaniel's. And just like that, the house they once told me I didn't belong in was finally mine. Empty. And full of possibilities. They left like cowards. No goodbye. No apology. Just boxes thrown into the back of my brother's pickup, tires squealing out of the driveway I used to sweep as a child. I stood on the porch barefoot, coffee in one hand, Nathaniel's fingers laced through mine. The wind felt cleaner. The silence louder. And for the first time in years, I wasn't holding my breath in my own skin. The next few weeks were quiet. Peaceful. Nathaniel started renovations, not to erase the past, but to reclaim it. We tore down the wallpaper my mom had begged my dad to change. We opened the windows that were always locked. We painted every room in soft, warm tones, like we were building a home from the inside out. But peace never lasts long in families like mine. It started with a knock. Sunday morning. I was still in pajamas. I opened the door to find my brother standing there, red-eyed, holding a bouquet of gas station flowers and a letter. "I didn't know," he said, voice cracked. "I didn't know he was that powerful. I didn't know you had that kind of money." I stared at him. "So now I'm worth something?" He looked down, ashamed. "I'm just saying, maybe we started off wrong." I folded my arms. "We didn't start off wrong. You started off spoiled." He offered the letter, handwritten, shaky. "It's from Dad," he mumbled. He's not doing well. High blood pressure, drinking more. He thinks he lost everything." I took the letter. But not the flowers. Inside, my father had scrawled a single line. "You turned your back on your blood." I read it twice, then handed it back. "I didn't turn my back," I said calmly. "You just never turned around to see I was still there." Nathaniel came up behind me. "Everything okay?" he asked, voice even. "I looked at my brother one last time. Tell Dad I hope he takes care of himself. But this door? It doesn't swing both ways anymore." And I shut it. Softly. But permanently. They tried guilt. Then silence. Now, desperation. It started with a Facebook post from one of my cousins. Crazy how some people forget where they came from once they get a little money. Then the phone calls. Blocked numbers. Unknown IDs. I didn't answer, but Nathaniel did once. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He just said, "If you contact her again without respect, I'll consider it harassment." Click. They finally stopped. Until the fundraiser. Turns out, my father's business, the one he inherited from his father, was sinking. Mismanaged. Loans unpaid. Clients fleeing. So they planned a community family barbecue fundraiser and invited me. I laughed when the flyer showed up in my mailbox. Black and white printout. Misspelled my name. "All proceeds go to saving the Carter legacy." Nathaniel looked over my shoulder and smirked. "They mean your legacy." We didn't RSVP. We didn't reply. But we showed up. Dressed clean. Confident. Me in a fitted white blazer. Nathaniel in his crisp civilian suit. All eyes turned when we stepped onto the field. My father was at the grill, flipping burgers with fake cheer. He froze when he saw us. So did my brother, working the donation table. "Look who remembered where she came from," someone muttered behind me. I didn't flinch. I walked straight up to the donation jar, a flimsy plastic box, and slid in a folded check. The room buzzed. Then I turned to face them. "Just so there's no confusion," I said calmly, "that check isn't a gift. It's a buyout." My father's mouth opened. My brother turned pale. "I'm purchasing what's left of Carter Auto and Tire," I continued. "Effective tomorrow. I'll own the land, the license, and the name." Gasps. "You won't fire me," my brother snapped. "I won't have to," I replied. "The audit will." Nathaniel dropped a thick manila folder on the table. "Payroll inconsistencies. Fake invoices. Missed taxes. We've already spoken to your supplier. They're ready to negotiate with us." My father staggered back, gripping the edge of the table. I looked him dead in the eye. I didn't forget where I came from. I just stopped pretending it was a place worth staying in. It was a clean takeover. No lawsuits. No threats. Just contracts, signatures, and silence. By Monday morning, I was the official owner of Carter Auto and Tire, the very business my father once told me I'd never be smart enough to handle. I didn't fire anyone, but I replaced the rusted Carter sign with one that read, "Carter and Brooks, Women First Automotive." Our new slogan? Run by the hands they said weren't strong enough. Nathaniel redesigned the office layout. I restructured payroll, added benefits, hired 2 female mechanics, and tripled appointments within a month. Clients came back. Reviews exploded online. We even got featured in a local news piece. Daughter turned downcast turns legacy into gold. My brother? He tried to apply under a fake name. Didn't even make it past the lobby. My father? He stayed quiet. Moved into a rental 30 minutes away, his pride packed tighter than the boxes he left behind. But what he didn't expect, what no one expected, was what I did next. I hosted a veterans job fair in our old backyard. The same yard where my father once told me to keep my ugly ambition off his lawn. This time, Nathaniel stood beside me, mic in hand. "We're hiring. Not just for skills, but for resilience." People applauded. Veterans hugged me. Women from shelters signed up for training. And when the mayor handed me a plaque, I saw my father standing at the back, arms crossed, eyes dark. He didn't speak. But I did. Not every family lifts you, I said into the mic sometimes. The family you're born into buries you alive. But what you do after you dig yourself out, that's legacy. The crowd went silent. Then, thunderous clapping. Nathaniel slid his hand into mine and whispered, "Your story just went public." I smiled. Let them watch. Let every whisper and insult echo back to them on YouTube, on TV, and papers. Because the girl they laughed at for bagging groceries? She now signed paychecks. And she did it with polish, power, and a heart that learned to stay soft in a world that tried to harden it. It rained the day I was invited to speak at the Women's Leadership Summit. Funny how things come full circle. I stood backstage in heels I once couldn't afford, gripping the note cards I didn't need. Nathaniel stood behind me, hands on my shoulders, whispering, "You've already won." I stepped into the spotlight. A sea of faces. Young, old, broken, mending. I took a breath and began. I was the daughter they didn't want to claim. The sister they treated like a maid. The woman they tried to bury beneath their own shame. And for years, I believed them. You could hear a pin drop. I worked in silence. Waited in shadows. I stocked shelves while they toasted diplomas. But pain has a strange way of preparing you, like pressure turns coal to diamonds. I looked up. They told me I wasn't wife material. Now I'm married to a man who built empires, but bowed to kindness. They told me I wasn't family. Now I own the house they abandoned and the business they ran into the ground. Applause rippled through the room. And when they told me to leave, I did. But I didn't just walk away, I rose. And in rising, I didn't destroy them. I simply made them irrelevant. The crowd stood, clapping, cheering. But the real victory came later, in a quiet moment. I was back at the old house, barefoot on the porch. The same porch where my father once slammed the door in my face. Nathaniel sat beside me, warm coffee in hand. "I saw your dad at the gas station today," he said. I raised a brow. He looked, old, Nathaniel added. Empty. Like a man who finally realized he bet against the wrong daughter. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because revenge isn't rage. It's not chaos. It's standing tall in the ruins they built for you and calling it home. I didn't shout. I didn't burn bridges. I outgrew them. And when they looked up, expecting me to beg for a seat, they found me at the head of the table.